Hey everyone. Today we are about to unveil the mystery behind the case. Buckle up, are you ready? Back in London, he asked a friend to dig up the old case. Sure enough, it matched Poirot's suspicion. The protagonist of the case turned out to be the mysterious widow. Remember, a decade ago, this widow was accused of murdering her husband, and her reaction when arrested was astonishing. She slyly claimed her husband was killed by two robbers, one being her partner, the late Paul. However, before she could finger Paul, he had already vanished. The police had no choice but to let her go free. Soon after, the widow took her husband's fortune and fled to another country with her daughter, making Paul a fugitive. Meanwhile, Hastings was having lunch with a lady who happened to be the singer they met on their first day at the hotel. For some reason, the singer took a keen interest in Paul's case, asking Hastings for details. Maybe it was his masculinity kicking in. Hastings fell head over heels for the singer and spilled all the details without holding back. He even took her to the police station to check their records, but upon seeing that bloody pen, the singer fainted. Hastings went to get her a glass of water, and when he came back, she had mysteriously disappeared, along with the pen on the table. He thought nothing of it, assuming she just went to rest. But in reality, the clue on the table had vanished. The next day, Hastings joined the inspector at Paul's only to find a body, no clues. The scene mirrored Paul's, killed by a dagger, bizarrely identical to his. At this moment, Poirot returned to London and learned of the body and dagger, getting scolded by the inspector. The inspector announced they were going to find the mysterious singer, and Poirot and the others sought help from the coroner. Surprisingly, after inspection, the coroner found that the deceased wasn't stabbed to death, but died from an epileptic seizure. Even stranger, the dagger was inserted after his death, leaving Poirot puzzled as a cat in a doghouse. Why would the killer go after someone who was already dead? Was it just to confuse the witnesses? The case grew more convoluted. The next day, while Poirot and Hastings lunched, a server said a woman was looking for him. It turned out to be the widow's daughter, Martha, who hurriedly informed Poirot that the inspector was about to arrest her boyfriend, Jack. She anxiously said the inspector found Jack had lied. He wasn't at the hotel that night. Martha believed Jack was innocent and hoped Poirot could save him. Poirot nodded, while Jack was oblivious to the storm. Just when Jack was getting ready for a competition, Poirot couldn't help but think that Jack's shoes matched the footprint found at the scene. Could Jack really be the culprit? It contradicted Poirot's instincts, so he decided to talk to Jack after the competition. What really went down that night? Just as Poirot saw on the table, the back of the singer's photo had his name BD, which matched the one in another BD appeared. What is it? Poirot rushed to the competition, but hesitated to ask. The inspector showed up with his men and promptly arrested Jack. Strangely enough, Jack chose to remain silent in the face of the charges. Back home, Poirot prepared to honor his vet by trimming his little mustache, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Something was clearly amiss. The truth seemed to be surfacing all too easily. Poirot sat the sisters down and found Mary, questioning her about what really happened on the night of the incident. What was her connection with Paul and the widow? But before that, he mentioned Paul's escape plan. He informed Mary that Paul plotted with the widow to murder her husband and then fled to Chile, where he later met Mary. Shortly after their wedding, they visited France. Mary knew Paul's secret. After Poirot's conjectures, she looked puzzled. Poirot continued explaining that Paul made a fortune in the gemstone business in Chile, but unexpectedly, the widow came knocking on his door. After years, the widow had blown through her husband's inheritance and started blackmailing Paul non-stop. To make matters worse, Jack ended up falling in love with Martha, while Paul could do nothing to stop it. Faced with the widow's relentless harassment, Paul finally snapped and came up with a plan. He decided to reuse his trick, faking death by kidnapping to rid of her forever. But first, he needed a body. How lucky was it that a homeless guy stumbled into Paul's home and accidentally died in a scuffle? So Paul dressed the homeless man in his clothes, stabbed him with that dagger, and faked a murder scene. To ensure the plan went smoothly, Paul thought of a way to keep Jack away and intentionally let the driver take a vacation. Everything was prepared, but Paul unexpectedly encountered Poirot at the hotel that day. Realizing Poirot's identity, Paul devised the plan. Poirot witnessing his slow death would be highly convincing. After everything was ready that night, Paul executed his kidnapping plan and took off a coat. He was ready to deal with the homeless man's body, but while digging the pit, he was suddenly killed by the killer that appeared behind him. The iron pipe Poirot found at the scene was what Paul planned to use for disfigurement. It was clear that the killer must have known Paul's scheme. After hearing Poirot's account, Mary choked out her confession, but didn't seem to bother about any punishment that might come. As a mother, all she wanted was to plead with Poirot to save Jack. After all, she knew he was innocent. Poirot reassured her that he believed Jack was innocent and was confident he could prove it, as he had found a key witness.